Hi guys, it's Jenny. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video I have a very different video than what I usually do. So some of my favourite things to do and favourite videos to watch on YouTube are like conspiracy theory videos and videos about like mythical creatures that could be true but we don't know if they actually exist. I just find them like really interesting and I love researching them. So I thought I would start a kind of like, hopefully it will become a series on my channel where I talk about different like conspiracy theories, hoaxes, like mythical creatures, like whether they actually exist or not. So that's what I'm doing in today's video. So by the title you already know that this is about fairies, and in particular the Cottingley Fairies hoax. When I decided that I wanted to do this series, I knew that I wanted to do my first video all about fairies because I just find them really interesting, and like I guess being like a girl, like when you're a little girl, that's like, I don't know, you always think fairies are real, so it's interesting to learn about them and to do a bit of research on them and see all the proof and everything, whether they do exist and whatnot. So yeah, I'm going to be doing it all about the Cottingley Fairies hoax. So if you enjoyed this video and you want me to actually make this into a series, give it a thumbs up, and of course don't forget to subscribe to my channel down below. And yeah, let's get into the video. Okay, so before I start, I'm sorry if this research is a little bit like all over the place, like if I'm just all over the place in this video, because there is like so much research on it, and yeah, if I'm a little bit jumbled up, I apologise because this is my first one, but yeah, hopefully it goes well. So this story started in 1917 in the little village of Cottingley, which was in Bradford, which is in England, and this was actually during the First World War. So I just thought that was important to keep in mind, that, you know, it was a very long time ago and things were very different back then. So this involves two girls by the names of Elsie Wright, who was 17 at the time, and Frances Griffiths, who was 10. And Frances was actually staying with Elsie and their family. She was actually from South Africa but was staying there for the summer, I believe. So during the day the girls would always go to the bottom of their garden to play near the stream, and they would always come back and tell their mother that they'd been playing with the fairies, and of course their mother did not believe them one bit, so they wanted to prove it to them. So they were actually allowed to use their dad's camera, and so they just went down to the end of their garden to play by the stream like they would pretty much every day, and they came back and said that they took a picture with them playing with the fairies. So their dad, who was actually like an amateur like photographer, got the photos developed, because obviously at that time the cameras were a lot different to ours. You couldn't just plug them into your computer and look at them, or just look at them on the camera. You had to get them properly developed. So that's what they did with the picture, and this is the picture that they took, which their dad obviously thought was not true. He immediately thought that they were just cardboard cutouts of fairies, pictures of fairies, and that they'd just placed them in front of them and took a picture. So he didn't believe that they were true. Then about 2 months later they took another picture, which was, I believe it was Elsie with playing, it was this picture here, which I believe is Elsie kind of with her hand out to like a little goblin or whatever it's meant to be. That's what her dad actually called it, but her dad still didn't believe that it was true. However, their mum did. I believe it was like, I think Elsie's mum believed that it was true. So Elsie's mother actually attended a theosophical meeting which was about fairy life, and at the end of the meeting she showed the two pictures to the speaker, and then a few months later the speaker actually showed them at a conference in Harrogate, and that's where Edward Gardner saw them and thought that they might actually be true. So Edward Gardner was like a leading member of the society, so he was very like influential, I guess. So he sent the photos off to be examined, and they were actually examined by 3 different people and like camera companies, like photography companies. The first person he sent it to was Harold Snelling, who was a photography expert. He said that the 2 negatives are entirely genuine, unfaked photographs with no trace whatsoever of studio work involving card or paper models. So he believed that the pictures were real pictures. However, he didn't go as far to say that fairies actually exist. He just said that these are straightforward photographs of whatever was in front of the camera at the time. So not saying that fairies do exist, but saying that whatever was there in front of the camera at the time was real. There was no signs of it being faked. So then Gardner sent it off to a photographic company called Kodak, and they agreed with Snelling and said that the pictures showed no signs of being faked. However, they concluded that this couldn't be taken as conclusive evidence, but they were authentic pictures of fairies. So yeah, I think kind of saying the same thing as Snelling, not that fairies do exist, but they were actual authentic pictures. However, Gardner kind of believed that the examiners at the Kodak company didn't actually look at the pictures fairly, because they all kind of already had in their minds that fairies didn't exist. So they said, you know, fairies don't exist, so there's no way these pictures can be real. So they looked at them in a very biased way, which when you're looking at something, like evaluating something, you want to look at it with an open mind. So then finally they took them to another photographic company called Lifford, not sure how to say that, but they said that there was some evidence of faking in the pictures, but that was as much as I could find on that one. So yeah, that was all they said on that. So in 1919, the pictures actually came to attention of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who, if you don't know who that is, he is the author of Sherlock Holmes, which is like a huge story, like very famous, so I'm sure you've all heard of it. But he actually wrote an article about the pictures about fairies for a leading magazine company, and he actually claimed that the pictures were real. So he thought they were definitely genuine, real pictures, and fairies did exist. So in 1920, Doyle was actually away in Australia for some speech, I think, on some matter that he was working on. So he actually sent Gardner to visit the Wright family to do some more investigation into the pictures and see if they could get any more pictures out of it. So at the time, Frances was actually living in Scarborough, which wasn't too far away, it was still in England, but she was there with her parents. However, Elsie's father said that he was so convinced the pictures were fake that he actually went through the girls' room to look for some evidence, but said that he couldn't find any incriminating evidence on the fact that they were faked. So a few months later, Gardner returned to the Wright family with 2 Kodak cameo cameras and 24 secretly marked photographic plates. Frances was then invited back to stay with the Wright family during school holidays so that they could take some more pictures of the fairies. So he gave the 2 girls the cameras, gave them instructions on how to use it and everything, and basically sent them off to the end of the garden and said, take some more pictures of the fairies. However, up until August 19th, so around about a month, the weather was actually unsuitable to take any photographs. Again, this was a very long time ago, the cameras were very different, so there had to be certain conditions, especially for the weather if you were shooting outside. So yeah, the weather was unsuitable to take pictures in. The girls actually ended up telling Gardner and their parents that the fairies wouldn't actually come out if anybody else was there apart from them. So one day their mother went out, I think, to have a cup of tea at her friend's house or whatever, and they managed to take some more pictures, and they actually took 2 more pictures, which are these ones here, and the plates were sent off to Gardner in London, who obviously developed them, and then he sent a telegraph to Doyle, who was still in Australia and was very, very excited about it. Doyle was so excited and said that it confirmed their research on fairies. So in August of 1921, Gardner again visited the girls and asked them to take some more pictures, but they said that they could no longer see any of the fairies, that the fairies just weren't there anymore, so they couldn't take any more pictures, and the girls actually ended up getting a bit bored with fairies, so there were no more pictures taken after that. So that was everything that happened at the time, everything to do with the pictures. So now we're going to jump on about 60 years later, when everything basically got solved. So in 1983, 5 years before Elsie's death, I believe, both of the girls admitted that the photos were fake. However, they didn't say that they didn't see fairies. They said the photos were fake, but they did admit to seeing real fairies. They said that the fairies were actually made from cardboard cutouts, and they were propped up by hat pins, which all the women were wearing in those days. They all had hats on, so they all had little pins in their hair to keep the hats on. And Elsie, I believe Elsie actually just copied some drawings that she found from a book, and just of like dancing ladies, and just added wings on and cut them out and stuck the hat pins on, and that's what they used in their pictures. However, there's been a lot of like dispute over the 5th picture, which is this one here. Elsie throughout like the last few years of her life was saying that all the pictures were faked. However, Frances was saying the first 4 pictures were faked, but the last 5th one was actually genuine, and that was a real fairy in there. And a lot of people actually believe her, which I'm interested to know if you guys think that's true as well, because of the way the fairy like is taken in the picture. It kind of looks a bit real, I guess. I don't know, personally I don't know if I believe in these anymore, because you know, you've got Elsie saying they're completely faked, and then Frances saying the last one is definitely true. So I don't know what I really believe. So then in 1985 they did another interview, and they admitted that they were too embarrassed to actually tell everyone that they faked the pictures, because they had fooled so many people, including Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, so they just felt too embarrassed to say that they had actually faked it all. And in the interview, Elsie said, "2 village kids and a brilliant man like Conan Doyle, well, we could only keep quiet." And in the same interview, Frances said, "I never even thought of it as being a fraud. It was just Elsie and I having a bit of fun, and I can't understand to this day why they were taken in. They wanted to be taken in." So yeah, that was kind of everything said on the matter. Again, I don't know what I believe, honestly. Could it be true? I don't think that the pictures were true, but you know, I do believe in what they were saying, that these were faked. But I don't know, it's interesting. And Cottingley kind of became, at the time, it was called like the fairy village and the fairyland. One last thing that I just want to mention is that they actually made a film based on the Cottingley Fairies, which was called Fairy Tale: A True Story. And when I was younger, this was one of my favourite films ever. I'm pretty sure we had it on tape, not DVD, but on tape. That's how old it is. I think it was made in 1997, which was actually the year I was born. So that film is like over 19 years old now, which is crazy. Let me know if you've seen it, because I love that film so much. If you haven't seen it, definitely go and watch it. You can find it online like everywhere. But I remember the start of the film, and even like on the CD, the video case, it said that it was based on a true story. And after seeing that, it was just like, oh my goodness, fairies are real. Like, being confirmed, fairies are real. But in the film, everything was pretty much the same. However, they had Houdini involved in it. I think he kind of played the role of Arthur Conan Doyle. Houdini was kind of did the same thing as Doyle did in real life. In the film, it actually turned out that fairies were real, however, everybody else didn't know that. The girls knew that they were real, but they kind of kept it a secret for the fairies, which was very sweet. There's just this one scene. I will try and find it. If I can find it, I'll have it playing now. But there's this one scene where everyone's going to where the girls took the pictures, and they are trying to like look for the fairies and everything, and you just see all these tiny little fairies walking across the road with like all their stuff. You know, you got like the stick with like the bag of clothes on the end, and they're all walking along and like with suitcases because they're all just like leaving because they don't want to be found. And it was, yeah, but they end up coming back at the end, so it's very cute. But yeah, if you haven't seen that film, go and watch it. But I think that's pretty cool how they made a film about it. Like, this story at the time was massive, but it turned out to be one of the biggest hoaxes ever, which is just like insane to think about. I don't know, like, that's crazy. So yeah, that is the story of the Cottingley Fairies. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it was interesting to you. This is like one of my favorite topics to research, so I had so much fun researching everything for this video, and I definitely want to do more. After doing this one, I definitely want to do some more. So yeah, let me know if you want to see some more, and like what stories you'd like me to do. It can be a hoax, it can be a conspiracy theory, whatever. Just let me know in the comments below. And yeah, again, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.